Now let's go and continue with our float property exercises here, and let's go and try to place the paragraph 1 here inside of the blue box and paragraph 2 inside of the red box. So let's go and see what will happen here. So now we have the paragraph 1 and paragraph 2 inside of each of the boxes. Now let's go and try to float our red box here to the left and add some padding here on our container of 20 pixels. Let me just correct this here. Now let's go and refresh this, and we can see now that they are positioned on both sides of the container. So we have the blue box on the right side and the red box on the left side, which is something that we commonly use, especially if we would want to go and position some elements together in the middle, just like when we use the inline block elements. So one keynote that you have to remember here is that once we go and use the float property here, you would see that once we go, when it comes to media queries, guys, for example, you're going to be developing from a wide screen to a smaller screen here. If the divs are no longer able to occupy the space, they will go below the other div, or the div will be falling below the other div. So you would see here that it's the red box is moving to the bottom part. So we have the blue box, the red box, based from the document flow, right? So if I go and try to resize this from this side, so let me just look for the arrow here, and you would see that they're now following the document flow, right? So the blue box, red box, the paragraph is inside, the paragraph 1 is inside of the blue box, and the paragraph 2 is inside of the red box. So usually this is what happens when there's no more enough space on the screen. They will be stacking based from the document flow. So based from how we wrote our code here, so we had the blue box first and then the red box that we have as the second box for the paragraph 2. So I'm hoping you got the idea here, guys. Now let's move to our next example 2, from where we will be using an actual image for positioning our image besides text. So we would want our image, and we would want that image to be beside a text. So we will be wrapping text beside it. What I want to do here is to go to Unsplash. It's a website from where you can get some free beautiful pictures. That's a good thing about this, it's for free. So now I want to go look for superhero, and here's the picture that I actually want for this example. I actually got a picture here from Action Vance. So you can actually download it for free, and we will just be using the, once you download it, guys, you can save it in your file. I already have this saved, guys. Just copy this to the clipboard, so at least we can give credit to the photo. Of course, we would want to give credit to the photographer here, and the only requirement will be for you to copy this inside of the code that we are working on here. So now let's open our project here and go down to our section 2 for our example 2 here. And what I want to do here is I would want to have the div container to contain an image tag, and then I would want, inside of that, I would want a at least a paragraph element. So let me just go and have a paragraph element, and then let's copy this content here that we got from the website. Let me just format the document here, so at least we can see that this is the link to the author, Action Vance from Unsplash. And of course, I actually had this downloaded already, so I just want to go and copy it here. Let me just go and put it here inside of our so we have the Action Vance image here. So what I want to do here now will be to go to my float property and then go get that image here. Let me just go and rename. I usually just copy the name there and then paste here .jpeg, and then alternate text here will be Batman, one of my favorite characters. So let's have at least 3 lorem ipsum here. Lorem 1, lorem 2, lorem. So at least we'll have a lot of we'll be having a lot of text here. Let me just format this. So now let's save it. Let's look at our document, how it will look like. So refresh. So again, this is a good site from where you can get a lot of free photos. You just need to go and give credit to the photographer. So you will be able to get a lot of photos there. Now we have our image, and it has a lot. It's occupying the whole container here. It's quite big because we did not specify any height and width. So let's go and do that. Let's go back to our code here and then specify for our image element. Let's just say here, let's go here and let's go create a comment here, example 2. Let's give it a class name of image Batman, and then let's give it a width of 200 pixels by height of 200 pixels for now. Then let's go, of course we need to go to our image here and give it a class name of image Batman. Save that. Let's see what will that look like in our document here. So now we have it here. Now what we're missing here is we haven't specified the container here yet. So let's go and get the contents here and then place it inside of our example 2 and call this container 2. So at least we can go and reference it. Now we have container 2 here. Let's save that. Let's go back to our document. Now we have an image on top of our paragraph. So this is one of the most common uses of the float property, and you would see this commonly from where an image, we have an image here and then beside it will be text. Instead of putting the text here below it, and we follow the document flow based from how we declared it, image, paragraph, and then the credits that we gave here, what we can actually go and do is to go and float the text the same way we did here in our first example. So what we want to do here is to float not the container, but we don't want to float the container, of course. We want to float the image, let's say left. So we want to float it, and we will not be specifying the clear property yet for the paragraph. So let's see what will happen. So if I go and refresh this, you will now see that we have the image and the text beside it. So you would see that we now have image here and the text beside it. So sometimes we usually go, you would see in some website, this is about us, right? We have an about us heading, and let's see that. So we have an about us here, and then let's put some margin on the right side of the image so at least it will not be sticking too much beside it. So let's go back to our image here. Let's have a margin, right? Let's say 50 pixels. And let's increase the width of the image to 300. Let's see what will that look like. Okay, so now we have the image here, and then we have the about us here. And now you would see that we have some text here that is talking about the image, that is represented by the image. And this is a common thing that you would usually see in some websites. They have an image on one side and then text that will be describing some content. Now let's go and put some text here and then some image here too. So let's go look for another image that we can use here. So this is a common thing that you would normally be able to see in some websites from where you would be seeing some images and text beside one another. And here, let's look for something interesting. Let's just go and what do you think would be nice? So let's go and Iron Man would be nice, right? So let's download this. I haven't downloaded it yet. Then copy the same thing. So I'm going to save this. Then go back to our code while we're downloading. Then I want to go down here and then inside of the container, what I want to do is to copy the code here. What I want to do next here would be to go and copy this, the paragraph, and here just put it below the content here. And here, let's go say more content. Okay, so now let's replace this with Iron Man. 2 billionaires, guys. Someday we'll be billionaires too. So now we have Iron Man and Batman. Now let's go get the downloaded file here. Let me just drag it here. So we now have it here, and let me just go and copy the name and then go back to my float property. Now we have that here. So now you're seeing how I'm working, and I'm hoping you're getting an idea on how the workflow when you're creating your projects. Yeah, and you will be able to use this for layouting your contents. So now we have two texts here, but what I don't want to happen here will be this image to be below this. Instead, I want the text here to be on the left side and the image here on the right side. Okay, so that's what we're going to be doing here. Now let's go back to our code editor and let's try to, I don't want this to be Batman, I want this to be Iron Man. So sometimes we see some websites saying that our services, right? So instead of more content, let's call it our services. So let's do some changes here later on. But for now, I want to go and select the class image Iron Man. And then let's just give it the same height. But instead of floating left, we want to float it to the right. Let's check our document here. What happens? So now we have our text on the left side of the Iron Man image because we floated it to the right. But we don't want this to be here. So what do we need to do? We can maximize the use of the clear both property, if you remember in our previous lesson here. So let's go and try to do that. Now let's go back to our code editor. And I'm going to give classes here for the H3 heroes. And then I'm going to give it a clear both property. Let's see what will happen. Let me just go, and of course we would want to go and select the class here, H3 heroes. So let's go and see what will happen here. Okay, we're missing an S here. Now let's go and shift and arrow key, and then of course let's also put that here just so that we'll have some applied clear property for those two H3. So let's try to see if that will work. Now we can see that our services here went down the image because again we did not allow any floating items on both of its side, the left side and the right side. I'm hoping you're getting the idea, guys, on how we practice it here. We're now applying it here to create this layout, this basic, very basic layout. Now what's missing here is that I would want to add some space from the text here, and I would want to center this text here. So let's try to apply some of the things that we've learned before. So here we can maximize the use of text align, center. Let's see what will that look like. if we try to apply that. So we now have our about us and our services here. Now what I want to do here is to apply some space here and try to give distinguishment to the sections from the section about us and the section our services here. So what we can apply here will be the HR element. Let's apply what we've learned so far. So let's go and put an HR here. And then here, I would want to go and put the HR here in the our services section. Let's see what will that look like, or how will that look like on our document. So you would see that it's allowing floating items on its left side because we did not declare any clear property for the HR. So let's go back to our document and then apply the clear both again. Let's see how will that be displayed by our browser. Now we can see that the HR element here is not allowing any floating items on both its sides. So let's apply some margin bottom for this image. So at least we can see that there's some space. So for image Batman here, I would want to go and give a margin bottom of, let's say, 20 pixels for now. Let's see how will that look like. So now we have some space here. It's looking more better right now. We are able to distinguish the two sections. So here I would want to apply some text spacing here from the image that we have here. So let's go back to our code editor. So we have our image Iron Man. So let's have that margin left. So you will see here that we are applying the things that we have learned in our previous lessons. And we are now having some layout, very basic layout, and we were able to apply what we've learned from here. So I'm hoping that this gave you some ideas on how you can maximize the use of the float properties. So you can actually add some space more here on the container here. So depending on how you would want to place your elements. One last thing that I want to show you here is that if I go back here and I give this an opacity of 0.5, and then let's go and instead of 50 pixels, I would want to show you here what will happen. So you would see, again, what we have applied here is the same thing that's happening down here in our example 2, from where the image is on top of the paragraph element. And if we give the paragraph element here some background color, so let's say this is the paragraph element. Okay, let's go and give this a class of hero p dash hero. So at least we will know that that's the paragraph element p dash hero here. Then of course let's give it a background color of green. Save that. Let's see how will that look like on our document. So you would see again, this is occupying the whole width of our container without the padding that we have applied. We have 20 pixels here, if you remember. So again, the paragraph here is behind the image. And if we go give the image here 0 pixels, as I've talked about in our previous lesson, that will serve as the wall that prevents the text inside of our paragraph from going behind the image. So that will be for this lesson, guys. I'm hoping you got some more ideas on how you can maximize the use of the float properties. So let me just go and remove the background color here and the opacity, but I'm going to leave the comment here, so at least when you download the files here, you would have some examples, actual examples of the code that we are doing so far in our project. So let's go back here and then apply the 50 pixels margin to the right here. Okay, so see you on the next lesson.